Splatoon 3 Side Order. I can finally announce that yes, I have played it. About 1 week ago, Nintendo invited me to a preview event to be able to play Splatoon 3 Side Order, the DLC, for about 2 hours. And my first impressions of this, guys, is that holy, we are going to be eating. Now, in no way is this a review of the new DLC. However, I'm going to tell you guys my experience with it. I personally couldn't record anything for myself, but Nintendo has provided screenshots and gameplay for you guys. So let's go into it because there's a lot to talk about. Now, the first thing I'm going to mention, guys, is that if you really like Salmon Run, you are going to really love the way Side Order plays. Now, I'm not going to tell you guys any of the specifics of the story because I feel like you should experience that for yourself. However, in terms of the gameplay and what you could expect, this is pretty much what's going to happen. Now, stay with me here because there's a lot to explain and you may or may not get confused, but trust me, it's going to be a lot of fun. When you get into Side Order, you're going to go through somewhat of a tutorial, and it's basically going to teach you guys how Side Order works, which, well, I'm going to tell you anyway. After the tutorial, you'll be placed into Inkopolis Square, which, well, if you didn't know, if you played Splatoon 2, you probably would have noticed that when Side Order was first revealed. So this whole thing basically takes place in the hub world of Splatoon 2. Now, when you get to this square, you're going to be able to head up into Inkopolis Tower. Like it's been teased before, Splatoon 3 Side Order has roguelite elements to its gameplay. And what I mean by this while you're heading into the tower is that you can change the way the gameplay works as you're going through and up the tower. There's a thing before you go up into the tower known as permanent upgrades, and these permanent upgrades can range from things like max lives, damage reduction, max armor, broken armor jump, armor recovery, broken armor speed, and so on and so forth. There's a bunch of different things where you can modify to change how your gameplay experience is going to be. Now, you're really going to have to take this into account because playing Splatoon 3 Side Order is like a run. You will go through level 1 and your friend will go through level 1, but the thing is, your level 1 and their level 1 could be completely different. To put it this way, if you've played this game called Lethal Company, where you're on a spaceship and you go into different moons and all the moons are always different, or the aspects of the moons are a little bit different every single time, that is exactly what I mean. So if you go into the tower using one of your permanent upgrades, let's say max lives, and you only went in with 2 lives, which you can choose actually, those are your 2 lives for that run. You also have the choice of going in with 1 life as well, but you have to take into account that that is your only life throughout the entire run that you go through. From my experience, there are about 30 levels within the tower, and if you went in with 1 life and let's just say you die on, let's say, floor 22, your entire run completely ends. And the thing is, that's only just scratching the surface of things because there's so much more to Side Order as well. So let's talk about when you get into level 1. Now, the thing is that every single time you go through a level, you get 3 options to play 3 different types of levels. One of the 3 levels will offer a different type of chip. Now, these chips, as we've seen, are basically abilities that you could obtain for the specific weapon that you're using. From what I know, in total, there are about 6 different chips. The red chip can boost the power of your weapon. The purple chip is basically a supportive element for your weapon. Yellow chip is for range. The blue chip is for the mobility of your weapon. The cyan colored chip is basically an ability where Pearl, the drone that she actually flies around with you, gets specific abilities for herself as well. Also, Pearl being a drone, yeah, she's like a sidekick companion to you. She has the ability to attack enemies for you with her own specials, I believe. And there is also this new cool mechanic with her where you can glide by pressing a double jump. It was a really interesting twist and it was definitely not what I was expecting. And the lime chip is basically like a lucky drops kind of chip, where if you shoot one of the enemies in Side Order, they can give you a special charge boost which can allow you to get your special quicker. Speaking of enemies, by the way, those things are known as gelatins, and there's several of them as you go higher up within the level. Now, when you go into a level, you have a specific objective to do within that level. Some of the objectives that I played was you had to basically paint a zone and maintain it until it finishes all its ticks, or you had an objective where you had to destroy all the generators, and so on and so forth. This is basically like how majority of the levels that I played through went. Now, when you pick a level with a certain chip, that certain chip's ability will immediately be enabled when you go into the level with the chip that you picked. So as I was saying before, think of those chips as mini buffs that you'll get for the weapon that you choose. As you do go up higher and higher, your palette is going to be filled with a bunch of different colors, ranging from many different abilities. Now, I just gotta say, some of these abilities are so unique and have not been shown within the main multiplayer of Splatoon 3. I remember ability within one of the runs that I had was known as Poison Ink, which basically whatever you paint on the floor, the gelatins would take excessive damage if they walked with inside it, and it allowed me to take out enemies a little bit easier because some of these enemies are quite tanky, I'm not going to lie. Another ability that I also really liked was when I was using the Splatbrella, which was called, I think, No Launch Splatbrella or something like that. And the thing I really liked about this ability is that it basically turned my regular Splatbrella into an undercover Brella, which I can just continuously shoot, but also hold the shield out and basically block off all the shots from incoming gelatin. You can see within the gameplay right now is that some of the abilities really do change and upgrade how your weapon works as you're going through the tower. You can see here with this Octobrush that you're running at supersonic speed. I feel like this is actually speed that's faster than the regular ink brush too. And I felt like that was one of the things I experienced during Side Order, is that I really had to strategize what type of chip is going to make my weapon better and which chips actually would work with the weapon that I'm using to make it even better too. When you're going up through the tower, the levels do start to get really hard. Just to mention, I had about 2 or 3 runs and my best run was only up to floor 17. Bear in mind too, I only had 1 life, but the difficulty does really ramp up, and when you're picking some of these levels too, you would notice that there's easy difficulty, normal difficulty, and hard difficulty. Of course, if you pick a harder difficulty, the rewards that you get for the run that you do are much greater than others. You get this currency that you'll be able to exchange for this thing called pearls, which will allow you to actually change some of the permanent upgrades that you get to basically change your gameplay experience even more. And it's something that you're going to experience as you go up higher and higher up the tower, and those levels, I mean, I played at least 2 rigorous difficulty levels and they can get really intense. Like I said, if you played a lot of Salmon Run, you're really going to like this style of gameplay because the hazard level of the amount of mobs that you're going to be dealing with in some of the levels that have the higher difficulties, it's going to be very noticeable. And I think the thing you have to also think about is that you're all by yourself, you're not with a whole squad, so it's only you that has to deal with this all. Just to mention too, every 10 levels you're actually going to face a boss. Now, I'm not going to tell you guys the specifics of some of the bosses that I played, but trust me, they can get very hard depending on the type of abilities that you might have and the permanent upgrades that you might have as well. And if things weren't hard enough, you might randomly run into things known as danger levels, which is basically an event within the level that could change the whole thing, where you potentially could start the level with the gelatin's ink being completely everywhere. You can go into a level with it being completely pitch black, so on and so forth, just to make your experience much harder. I only experienced 1 danger level myself where the entire stage was filled with black ink, and it just made my experience just much harder because I had to now paint up a bunch of black ink just to get myself around. Now, for experiencing Side Order for myself, I can really understand what they mean by how Side Order can be replayed millions of times. Just to mention, the weapons of choice that I had was a Splatter Shot, Splatbrella, and Splat Dualies. Playing through it a few times, I was also able to obtain a Lunar Blaster and an Octobrush. And I can really understand the replayability factor of this, is that you can use one of the weapons, and as you go up higher and higher, your weapon is going to change and everything about it is going to change depending on what you pick specifically. Like if you want to use an Octobrush and max out the speed and mobility of it, you definitely can. If you want to use a Lunar Blaster and max out the fire rate of the weapon, which make it like a Clash Blaster in a way, you definitely can. The thing is about all these specific weapons that you get is that as you're playing Side Order with, let's just say you're using the Splatter Shot, you're able to obtain keys, which I can't tell you what they unlock, but just know with all the weapons that you do get in Side Order, you're able to obtain 3 keys for each of those weapons. So somewhat, you have to use different weapons within Side Order to basically obtain all the keys. And I like that a lot because the weapons that you play have all very unique experiences as you go up. And of course, the chips that you'll get are all going to be different because I'm pretty sure you can't get a splatter shot with the no launch Brella ability. So the experience with each run is just going to be so different than the other. I also really like that each weapon also comes with its own different passive ability. From what I remember with the splatter shot, it came with extra range and a mobility buff. The Splatbrella came with drone and power buffs to it. The dualies came with a lucky buff and a support buff to it. And from the Lunar Blaster and Octobrush, the Lunar Blaster had the range and power buffs, and the Octobrush had the mobility and lucky buff. It's somewhat like a passive ability that's unique to those specific weapons, but just know that it's going to be different with each weapon that you do get. And also the starting kits that some of these weapons had are not like how it was in multiplayer. Besides the splatter shot that had Splat Bomb and Trizuka, you had like things like the Splatbrella having Sprinkler and Inkstorm, dualies having Carling and Reslider, the Lunar Blaster having Carling Bomb and Wavebreaker, stuff like that. And even then, those might be your starting sub and special weapons. That can also be changed as well because there are things called the vending machines, which during your run, you can change the sub weapon or the special weapon that you currently have. Like I had the ability to change my Trizuka from my Splatter Shot to have a Booyah Bomb, and I was just like, okay, now I have a Splatter Shot with Splat Bomb and Booyah Bomb, which is just like a big mind blown because like, imagine having that. So when going through a run, you have the ability to customize how your weapon is going to work and how you're going to deal with certain situations the higher up you go. The higher up you go, the harder the levels are going to get, and you are going to be basically a super inkling as you get closer and closer to level 30. Now, I don't know if there is anything past level 30 because all I made it was to as high as level 17 because I think I picked a rigorous level and things got a little bit too crazy and I couldn't handle at the time what was being thrown at me. But I feel like with Side Order, there's a whole lot to uncover, and I genuinely cannot wait to actually go ahead and get to play it again on the 22nd of February, which you should definitely mark on your calendars because I will be streaming it. And I hope you're also playing it too because I think a lot of us are going to have several different experiences going through this. And that is basically my 2-hour experience of playing Side Order. Guys, I really tried to make sure to grab in as much information as possible with whatever I played so I can bring it to you guys. But yeah, Side Order is coming out on the 22nd of February, so make sure to mark that down in your calendars. I will be streaming it, and I hope you guys join me with it too because I feel like all of our experiences are going to be so much different compared to everyone else's. I'll also be streaming later today, so if you had any questions about Splatoon 3 Side Order, I can definitely answer it for you. Of course, I can only answer so much, like if you're looking for story stuff, then I'm not going to tell you. Also, one thing that I also forgot to mention, yeah, Marina is in Side Order, but I can't tell you why. So yeah, there are certain things I can't tell you. I am under a non-disclosure agreement, so of course, certain things I can tell you, certain things I can't tell you. So just letting you know that. But I hope you guys enjoyed the information that I could tell you, and I hope you guys are all looking forward to Side Order because I am as well. So thank you very much guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more, and let's get ready for Side Order.